This conference will now be recorded.
Right. Thank you. It's 10 a.m. on Monday, April the 13th, and we call the meeting to order of the Sweetwater Enterprise for Economic Development Municipal Development District of Sweetwater, Texas. We're meeting virtually, and we'll start with a prayer from Mr. Crouch, please.
Thank you, and pray with me, everyone. Most gracious Heavenly Father, we come to you today in thanks and also requesting healing on our land. We thank you, Lord, for Christ, for the forgiveness of sins, and for the many blessings you continue to bless upon us. We pray for our country, we pray for our state, we pray for our county that we will work with each other, helping our citizens to avoid COVID-19 and working with our small businesses to keep them in business. Pray that you will please forgive us of our wrongdoings. Help us to love each other. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Joseph. Appreciate that. So we'll go to the next item on the agenda is public comments and petitions. At this time, anyone will be allowed to speak on any matter other than personnel matters or matters for a length of time not to exceed 3 minutes. No board discussion or action may take place in the matter until such matter has been placed on an agenda and posted in accordance. How do we know if anyone is? Anyway, do we have any public comment?
Nobody's in the meeting except us. So.
Okay. So, are we ready to move on, Ken?
Yes, we are.
Okay. So now we'll enter into regular session. Start with item 4A. Board to review and consider approving the minutes of March 2018. Any have any questions on the minutes? Any comments?
My audio is really disturbed. Are you guys getting good audio? I can't hear a thing.
Really fuzzy.
Carolyn seems to be breaking up on my end.
Yeah, it's pretty fuzzy.
Okay, now it sounds good.
Now it's clear.
Okay.
Okay.
Me too.
Good job, Joseph.
Good. Way to go.
I move that we approve the minutes.
Okay.
Did someone say second? I'm sorry.
Last seconds.
Okay, Russ seconds. It is moved and seconded that the March 9, 2020 minutes be approved. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it and the motion is carried. Item 4B, board to review and consider payment of accounts payable.
So moved.
Second.
Great. It's been moved and seconded that the accounts payable are approved and paid. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Opposed? The ayes have it and the motion is carried. Item 4C, board to review and consider approving the February 2020 financial statement.
We're actually doing really good in sales tax. This is our second best March in the last 10 years. We're a little over 11,000 from what we collected last year at this time. There's not a whole lot of change or anything to point out on the balance sheet or the income statement unless there's questions to ask. On our fund balance, you'll see the first incentive payment for paydeck in the amount of $19,500. This was their first reimbursement for the remodel of their apartments. We paid them $30,000 in November to get them started, and this is their first actual reimbursement of remodeling incentive. As I said on sales tax on the chart, we're still doing really great. And I included two unemployment statistic charts for y'all since I want to have that for last year. And if you will notice, the average of 2019 for Nolan County is 2.9%, compared to the average in Texas of 3.5%. So 2019 did really great as a county for unemployment. And the numbers to me for the January 2020 I was feeling they were going to be worse. So, any questions?
Again, the feedback is really, really hard to hear. Maybe if we had a few that would mute, that might help. I don't know, but I'm having a hard time hearing.
I'm too.
That's good now. So, Misha, I had a question or two on the financials, if that's where we're at, or 4C, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Just a few questions. Revenues are down according to budget about 50,000. And this is more of a question towards Ken, I guess. But as you go forward, we're 5 months into the year. We're short of the budget revenue about 50,000. Do you have concerns for the remaining portion of the year, given the current state of the economy and the anticipation of sales tax dollars continuing to be reduced?
Oh, most
That's
definitely.
the first question. The second question had to do with dues, subscriptions, memberships, and remind me again what administration fees were as it relates to actual versus budget. Then I'll let you answer.
Okay, so the administration fees are what we pay to the city, and that is a one-time upfront charge. And then you said in the, what was the other question? The administration fees and the dues, subscriptions, and memberships. Those are for like the Country Club membership, AWEA, the Permian Basin Petroleum Association. Let's see here, I have them all written down over here. Anything like Caground or TEDC. I had it written down what all we paid a couple of months back. Give me just a second. Yeah, so, and then like Nolan County realtors. And so a lot of the membership dues come at the beginning of the year. And so it kind of makes us look off of budget. But those are like a one-time fee for a yearly membership, so.
And Joseph, when you talked about sales tax, yeah, I mean, you know, I think we're all up in question at what level is it going to hit us? We know it's going to hit us at some level, and you don't have motel rooms being rented. The restaurants are slower than normal. So it is a concern, and we're just going to have to kind of take it month by month to see where that thing is heading. Hopefully this will come to an end sooner than later and get us back on track.
I will add that whenever David Bellis sent out his sales tax chart, we are still kind of above what we did last year. And that was for probably, I believe, sales taxes from February collected in, what was that new chart that he sent us, Kim?
Yeah, next month it'll show that we're up another $7,000 over last year at this time.
Yes, yeah.
But that's not really apples to apples, right? Because
That's apples to apples, but it doesn't start hitting the effect that we've received in the last 45 days.
Oh, no, I meant because last year does not include the ETJ. Is that correct?
Correct.
That's what I mean. It's not
Oh,
apples to apples. Yeah. Is that correct, Ken? I mean,
No, that actually last year did include the ETJ. Remember, we actually went to the MDD in July 1st of 18.
okay, so it does then.
So we're actually collecting apples to apples.
Ah, okay, thanks. I don't know why I was, okay, yeah, that's true. I'm sorry.
No, that's a good question.
Were there any other questions on the financials?
So I guess we need a
Move to,
motion.
move to approve.
Second.
It is moved and seconded that the February 2020 financial statements are approved. All in favor, please say aye. Or raise your-
Aye.
Okay. Thank you. Any opposed? The ayes have it and the motion is carried. So item 4D, board to review and consider approving the revised incentive agreement for Icy Breeze.
Thank you. Just kind of pre-work on this. Number one, we met with Jeff a couple different times. He came up with a kind of the plan that we talked about and felt that it was a pretty good follow-up. But I think going back just a little bit, at the last meeting, we had several questions about, altering contracts. And I would just kind of comment that if you go back to when our first FTE incentives were done, we ended up redoing a couple of those because we'd never done one before, and we're trying to experiment and figure out how to do these. And I see this as nothing different than what we did before. This is the first time we've done an incentive that was based on gross sales. So it just give us another look at, and all we've done is actually still stay within the total amount of 275 or 285,000 for the contract, but allow him some credit for meeting certain pieces of that goal. Initially, he was required to hit $1 million for 2019. He actually hit 918,698. By original contract, he would not get any credit at all for that. And so what we're advising and recommending is that on page 2 of the revised contract that Misha sent you, it gives you an incentive factor under table 2 that shows the first 25%, he gets 5,000, the next 25, he gets 10,000, the next 25, he gets 15, and then anything under the 75 to 99% gets 20, and then if he reaches his max, he gets the 25,000 for that year. So that would be our recommendation.
And you've discussed this with him.
I have not yet. I didn't want to go to him. It's all win for him. So.
Okay, true. Yeah.
Ken, this is Joseph. If you would, could you please help me walk through the differences of before and what you're proposing specifically?
Yes.
Is it only just that, or are there other changes to this? I would really like to be granular in this because I fear, again, my comments from last month where if we start this, it's a slippery slope, and a deal was a deal. And while it was close, it still didn't happen. So I just would like for you to be a little more specific in what changes you are recommending.
Yes, going back to page 2 of the contract, there's a table 1. That was the original agreement that said he had to meet $1 million in gross sales at the end of 2019. He reached 918,698. I just felt that would not be getting credit for it. And be honest, we did not look at that when we did the original contract, since this is the first time we've ever done a sales contract. So what we looked at is how could we break that up into pieces to where he still gets credit for portions of what he would get, rather than miss the whole thing by not selling an additional $81,000 worth of materials. So if he hits up to 25% of what the incentive is, he gets $5,000, and then that chart goes on. And again, this goes back to the first time we've done one of these type of contracts, and when we go back to the FTE, we actually did a couple different changes, because we found once that we got to put him into work, that some of the things that just weren't the same as what we thought they were when we put the contract together. I think another example was the facade grant improvement. Put a new program together, not thinking about any timelines. We've got one client right now that's still working on one that's been about 8 months. We now fix that going forward. So it'd be my recommendation to use the table 2 for that incentive. It would not change the FTE incentive. That is something we've been doing for a long time, and we think that we have that in good place and see no reason to alter that. Does that answer your question, Joseph?
It does, but to confirm, there's no other changes, Ken, other than the table 2. Basically, the original, I didn't pull out the original incentive agreement, so I'm asking, the only thing you changed is you just inserted table 2, is that right?
That is correct.
And how does that affect the business owner, Ken?
That actually gives him incentive dollars in this first year, where he would
Of how much?
He would actually receive this time $20,000 for the amount of sales he had. It does not increase the total contract. Those numbers do not change. It just gives him an opportunity to get $20,000 for the credit that he sold.
Okay.
Ken, can you just real quick help me understand the math then on 20? So the approved amount is $275,000.
Right.
Okay.
That doesn't change at all.
Okay, so $25,000 a year, and the 3,000 FTE. How does that work?
Well, he has a total maximum amount over the time frame of the contract. The FTE does not change. He has to earn those each year, just like it was originally in the contract. He actually had 4.91 FTE. He will get credit for 4, so he will be owed $12,000 on the FTE side. If we would go to the new table 2, for the amount of sales of $918,000, he would actually receive $20,000 incentives. So he would, this time, would get $32,000 incentives. That comes off the total amount over that 5-year period.
I guess I'm just missing something. How do we get to 275 if he can only get?
275 was if he earned all his incentives over a 5-year period by amount of gross sales and by the number of people he hires. He may not actually receive all that money if he doesn't hire as many people and if his gross sales doesn't hit the different peaks that he could get for that.
So really, from gross sales, the most he can get is 125,000. Is that right?
That's right. Right.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, the 275 is a little bit. To me, it's not as accurate a reflection of what we probably would even at the most pay him, right?
Yeah, I mean, it all changed. I mean, for instance, when we did a Crest downhole company, I mean, we did a $500,000 for them. They actually surpassed it. in less than 5 years. West received all theirs in less than 5 years. But then Select Energy didn't receive all theirs based on what they did when they pulled their company out. So they only received stuff on probably the first year and a half to 2 years of the incentive.
I would be interested in hearing others' comments. To me, I voiced my concern last month over changing these incentives as we go forward. I personally don't feel like it's in the interest of the overall agreement to change at this point. The incentives were initiated and based upon certain credentials. I don't remember all the background in this particular entity, but it's not entity specific. It's in general that we really need to think about the changes that we're making at this stage, because if we create the stance in the community that we have a deal year one, but in year 2 or 3 we're willing to change or adjust, and I understand at times adjustments are needed. I just think it's not the signal that we need to put out.
I would say we're kind of learning as we go. And you take, for example, what's going on right now. If this holds up much longer, there's no way he's going to hit that 1.5 mark for 2020. And so if it was prorated, I think that's it's a lot more fair to the current business environment. But the flip side of that is he could have fudged his numbers to get to the 1.1 million or 1 million if he wanted to, just to get that incentive. And obviously he didn't do that, so I respect that. Anybody else?
I feel like that, I mean, to me, the most, unless he ends up hiring a whole lot of people, the most we would end up helping him with would be right around $100,000 or ish, 100, 150 at the most. I think that's a reasonable amount to help this business. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I don't see how he could get to the 275 ever.
And part of what we do when we put these together is kind of put a carrot out there where they have an opportunity to earn that if their sales is a good point and if the number of people they hire and except some of them never reach that and others have surpassed it. So.
Without going into the math too deep, Ken, would there be a chance of the entity being able to eclipse the cap of the incentive based upon this adjustment?
No, the maximum amount does not change. And like former contracts, for instance, it's a 5-year period. So if at the end of 5 years, he's only got 150,000, the contract ends at that point in time, and any balances left just go back into our general fund. They're not eligible to get that unless we did a new agreement with them. And then the flip of that is like West, when they did theirs in 3.5 years, gave them the number of people that they hired and everything else. So once that total amount is hit, then the contract's done too, even though there may be 1.5 years left on the term. I guess with no other comments so far, I'll just again restate that it is staff's recommendation that we do the change of the contract and include the table 2 in the Icy Breeze contract.
Did John ask you for this change, Ken?
No, sir, he did not.
Yeah. So it's just based upon your understanding of the initial incentive, and then he presented you information on his sales that has caused you to request this change, or I guess
Yes,
what
sir.
is the underlying, is that why you're requesting this?
Well, when he gave me the numbers, he said, oh, I see the numbers are below the deal. And, that was just one of the things that I took upon myself. And I think that trying to help someone, giving him credit for as hard as he's worked, and this company could have easily located in a different place. And as a community, we worked hard to keep them here. And I just think it's the right thing to do personally.
And again, it's a $20,000 decision.
Yes, sir.
That's all my questions. Thank you.
Madam President, do we need a motion?
Yes, waiting for a motion.
All right. I move that we approve the amended and restated incentive agreement for Icy Breeze as presented.
Second.
Thank you. So it has been moved and seconded that the board approve the revised incentive agreement for Icy Breeze as presented. All in favor, please say aye. Okay, so we have, Misha, you help count. Okay, there we go. 3 ayes. Okay. All right.
I vote aye as well.
Okay. So all in favor, please say aye. Any opposed, no. The ayes have it and the motion is carried. Thank you. Okay, so we'll move on to item 5, Assistant Marketing Director's Report. We ready?
I was gonna unmute. I don't have a whole lot. Our Google Analytics are still looking pretty good, sitting right at 700. During this time of, I guess, like COVID-19 and stuff, we've been doing our best to post news articles on our website and direct people there using social media. A couple of the stories that I've posted about is like the SBA loans, the 14 essential corona response items that was sent out by Senator Charles Perry, a new story on the free Wi-Fi that West Tex Connect has out at Sutherland's, and then just kind of the positive story that I've posted is the splash pad, and we've also. And if you have a second, I guess I could kind of pull it up. There's a map that I have created, and the city is using this map as well. But this is on our website, and it is a map of all the properties that have been demolished and abated by the city, by property owners. Give me just a second, and I'm going to share my screen with you so you can kind of see where this is on our website. Maybe. So this is what it looks like. You can go to this little, down here is a PowerPoint, and it actually has the before and after pictures of everything. You can click on this website right here and say, for instance, 801 West Oklahoma was one of the ones that our board approved, and it's a really useful resource that kind of the city and the MDD have kind of partnered and done. Over here is one of the ones that was also abated by the MDD funds, and So just kind of, it would look a lot better. It will look a lot better once our website does get updated, which we are still working to find the right supplier. I've been put in touch with a couple of different companies by one of our retail strategies contacts. And so we're going to be setting up some conference calls and stuff to kind of see what kind of products they have to offer and which one is the most reasonable priced and gives us the, I guess, best package for what we're trying to do with our website. So that's one of the new kind of pages that we've kind of developed and everything. I also want to share with y'all some of the, I guess, a demolition update kind of thing. Previously, Dana had asked to be on our agenda this month for asbestos quote surveys. He was unable to get this. He's going to go through the Improtect Hibbs and Todd's, which is the contracted engineering firm for the city of Sweetwater. If you will remember, at a couple of meetings ago, he brought these 3 properties right here to us to get the Bureau Veritas, the third party, to come out and survey. Well, they have surveyed and they are, in fact, dilapidated. And so he will be coming to us in May to, he will have the quotes by May, he says. And it's going to be for the asbestos survey of these 3 properties right here that are, can everyone see my screen? I hope so. So that's one update. And he will also, at the city council meeting tomorrow, he is taking these 3 to have declared dilapidated. This is the one at 103 and 105 Hickory and 605 West Broadway, right by Gills, where Dirty Dogs used to be. And once declared, he also plans to get bids on the demolition of these 3 properties and bring that to us for funding as well. Co-construction, this was approved at our, I believe, February meeting. Yes. So this bid was approved or awarded to co-construction at our February meeting, and this is the 303 West Broadway that had the 4 structures. He has already torn down, as you can see down here, and it looks like he's just kind of waiting on the haul-off containers to come pick all this up. So that job is just about complete, and I'm sure we'll be on the lookout for a bill from him as well. So that is my update. And also for the facade improvement grant on the, Carolyn, by the way, this is the Grape Street that you brought to our attention. The owner is actually painting and kind of trying to fix it up. As you can see, they've painted a little bit. But the owner has been contacted and they are trying to take some responsibility on this property. And then Sweetwater Collision Center was on our agenda last month for a facade improvement grant, and it was tabled. There was an empty shell question about the last building that the roof is falling in on. And so we reached out to Danny Heine, and he says that the city follows the international building codes, the IBC code. And he says even if the roof is removed, it is still considered a building structure, and they could use it as they plan to use it as a storage area currently, and that would follow city code. Also, on down the line, if anything, or if everything goes as the owner plans, he does plan to either tear down the area where the roof has paved in or replace the roof. So the city of Sweetwater has been in contact with the property owner right here. He has done a lot already And he expects to have everything we need to approve a facade improvement grant for our May meeting. So.
Ask a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so just to be clear, what are we doing a facade improvement grant on? Are they not having to fix the front of the building where there is no roof? Are they just gonna do part of it?
So, and Ken has really spoke to him kind of more. So what they are kind of doing is they are scraping, they're going to repaint the whole front and the whole side, the Pond Street side of the building, where all that white and RV is. They are going to be replacing the overhead doors, or one or two of the overhead doors, and are awaiting a quote from Amara Auto Glass for a couple of the windows. But I believe that his intention is to maybe do some sheet metal over some of the other windows, just to kind of give it a better, curb appeal. So my understanding is paint and a couple of overhead doors and maybe a glass or two. Is that yours, Ken?
Yes, and he plans on doing the whole front and the whole west side.
All right, thank you.
Okay, I think that's all Misha has on hers. I'll go ahead and just jump into mine. We talked a little bit about the Paydex apartments. They have done 5 one-bedroom and 3 two-bedrooms already. They thought that they were going to slow down a little bit, take a month or so off, but they've already the demand continues to be there, so they're looking at getting back onto it. They're really doing a good job, and Misha's put together a good program where we have a check sheet that we go through and inspect every one before we approve any financials on that. So thanks to Misha for doing that, and thanks to this group for funding this, because it is making a difference. Misha talked a little bit about the free Wi-Fi spot. We worked with West Texas Connect. They're located out of Abilene, but actually started in Sweetwater. It goes back to, if you remember, Rodney Eminette is the owner of that company, he and his daughter. They contacted us and said that they would be interested in putting in free Wi-Fi hotspots in Sweetwater. So we kept looking for locations. We found one business that we thought would be an ideal spot, and the business owners chose not to have that done. I called Mr. Sutherland and talked to him, and he said, we'll have a few issues, but he said after about 30 seconds of comment, said, make it happen and we'll figure out the rest later. So we were able to do that, get it put up on their roof. So it's a temporary hotspot that has no one's paying for anything. Sutherland's providing the parking lot and the facility to put the antennas on. And if you haven't seen, Sutherland redid all their parking lot. They've redid it in the black and marked everything off, and it was getting pretty bad. People were stacking 3 deep and trapping people in, so it really looks nice. Another update on remodeling is the Chamber of Commerce building. You haven't been able to see it for a while. It's about 95% finished. The only thing they have left now is to put the granite countertops on. All the painting inside is done, painting outside is done, the garage is finished. So it really looks good, and Karen has kind of pulled her hair out going through this process, but between the Chamber and the Nolan County Foundation, I want to thank both those groups for really doing a good job and taking care of this. And just a personal comment on this, less than a month before Glenn Bennett passed away, he came by and came up and spent about a half hour in my office talking about making sure this building gets taken care of in the future. And I thought that was interesting because I was hired as a contractor back in 1990 to redo the building, and he was the one that I worked with on that. So I know Glenn's looking down on us with a smile right now, seeing that all this stuff got done to the building. Misha also talked a little bit about the economic development things we've been working off, and I really want to thank Joseph for helping us on a lot of this SBA stuff. We've been able to use his website and just conversations back and forth, And it's been interesting. There's a lot of free flow of information. Most of it has been good, but some of it you have to kind of watch for. But we've worked with, of course, SBA, SBDC, Texas Midwest, the High Ground of Texas, Governor's Office, all doing Zoom meetings or GoToMeetings, and each one kind of giving their updated version. And in fact, the Governor's Office has a meeting later this week to give another updated version on what's going to happen. So we're kind of going from there. Marinea Wind Farm, that's actually going to be built. There was an ad in the paper over the weekend for subcontractors. It was interesting. On Sunday afternoon, I take a picture, post that, and we've already had 5,449 reaches to that. There was just so much interest. There's going to be, I think, a little over 40 turbines, but these are 4.5 megawatts, so it's really, really big ones. Sutherland's is doing quite well. The president's very pleased with his activity level there. I've also talked with Ray down at Higginbotham. He's the new manager there. He said that their business has been very strong. And I think that between what we had expected when we originally did this agreement with Sutherland's and the fact that we've been kind of quarantined, is less people have been traveling and maybe forced to use some of our local stuff. I think they're finding that a lot of that shopping opportunity is what they were looking for. So both places seem to be doing quite well, at least at this point. We hope that'll go forward. I think that's all the updates I have at this moment.
Thank you, Ken. That's good. And all of those reports are wonderful, in my opinion. I think just the help for our community with your support and your providing information is invaluable during this time and all the time. Y'all do such a great job. All of those updates are really, really good, in my opinion. Does anybody else have any other comments? Any questions? Okay. So what do we need to do now?
I recommend we go into executive session, and like normal, the board will need to make a motion and go into executive session. Then Misha will take care of the back office stuff to get it set.
Do we need a motion to go into executive session, please?
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
So moved.
Second.
When your motion, will you please read number 7? And then wait until I stop recording before we start discussion.
All right. It has been moved and seconded that the board consider entering into executive session under section 551.087 of the Texas Government Code to discuss economic development negotiations. No action will be taken in the executive session that is not permitted by law. All in favor, please say aye. Or raise your hand. Any opposed? The ayes have it, and the motion carried for us to go into closed session.
This conference will now be recorded.
Moved and seconded that we return to regular session. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed? The ayes have it, and we'll return to session. I need to announce the date and time. So it's 10:53 a.m. on Monday, March 13th, 2020, and we're leaving executive session. I'm not sure which recording that made it onto, but okay. So are we back in regular now?
Yes, we are.
Okay, great. Ken, do you need? Ken, do you have words for us?
No, I have nothing else other than I think that there are just a lot of signs as we're going through these things, people helping people, stepping up, doing things that they wouldn't have done, more people walking around. I think our small communities are not being hit as hard as the big cities. And I think that's got to be a selling point to us at some point. So hopefully that as our nation comes through all this stuff, and we will, that we'll come out better on the other side.
Thank you. Very well said. Anybody else have any comments? All right. think we're ready to adjourn. If anybody have anything else?
Do we need to have these meetings like this all the time? We're doing it in less than an hour.
Mr. Cherry, we haven't heard from you today.
I've been missing it, Carolyn. I'm learning something.
Great. Would you like to make the motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, Ken. Thank you, Misha. Really good meeting. Good job keeping the community going like this. Y'all really are.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank y'all.